Today's video is sponsored by Black Kow Compost Company. I want to thank the good people over at Black Kow for the generous donation of all this beautiful Black Kow cow manure that we use in our video today, and it's made a tremendous success in our garden. I've been using Black Kow for many years, ever since 1980, and it's always made a tremendous difference in my garden, and I've been very pleased with our product. I highly recommend it. Thank you, Black Kow, for sponsoring our channel. Well, today we're going to grow us a couple of cherry tomato plants. Be right back after the break. Okay, we're over here at the tomato garden. We're ready to get started on these beautiful tomatoes. I already got my holes dug, got them dug in advance so I can just get right to it. So anyway, the first thing I do, of course, is dig my hole. And inside my hole, I'm going to put a good amount of fish. Me and Nancy went and got a whole bunch of fish down there at the river, cast netted a bunch of shad, and we saved those shad for spring so that we can use them for fertilizer. It's a fantastic fertilizer. Now when I put that fish in the hole, I'm going to also cover it with garden lime, which is nothing but pulverized dolomitic limestone, and you can get that at Lowe's or any old where. Ain't nothing fancy about it, and it's really not very expensive. So I cover that fish with that lime so that the smell of it decomposing doesn't come through the ground and animals smell it and come over and try to dig up the ground to get to that fish, and they dig up your plant. So always put the lime over the fish. Next thing I'm going to do is I mix up my mix that my soil mix that I'm going to put in the hole, because I took all the dirt that was in the hole when I dug the hole and made a berm around the tomato cage so it can retain water and funnel that water right down to the root system. So I don't want to use the dirt that came out of the hole. I put new dirt in, and what I do is I start off with some dry peat, and I'll put about 1/3 of my wheelbarrow of the peat, and I break that those clumps up with my hands. I rub it together and break it all up as good as I can. Then the next thing I want to add is my Black Kow cow manure. I add 1 bag. Best fertilizer I can put in here. Is a great animal compost. So I use the Black Kow, and I put that right on top of the peat. And then I'm going to add in bone meal because I need a good boost of phosphorus, and I also add in blood meal. That gives me a good boost of nitrogen. Then I'm going to add in I add in some more lime as well. Now what I do is I mix all that together, the bone meal, blood meal, the lime, the bone meal, the blood meal, the cow manure, the peat. I mix it all together as good as I can right then. After I got that thoroughly mixed together, then I come back and add on another bag of potting mix, just plain old potting mix. Then I add that together with the other ingredients, and I blend that thoroughly together. So I have 3 equal parts of peat, Black Kow cow manure, and potting mix. Of course, add additional bone meal, blood meal, and lime. I mix that together really good, and then I come back and I fill my hole with that new mix. I fill it up back to ground level. Then I take my my little plant, my starter plant, and I'll dig me a hole about 7 inches deep, because the pot that the little starter plant came in was 4 inches deep. These are indeterminate tomatoes, so I take the plant, dig the hole down 7 inches or so, drop the plant in, and that gives me about 3 inches above the root system that came in the starter plant. So the stem is buried 3 inches in the soil, and the reason for that is on indeterminate tomatoes, if I bury that stem down in the ground about 3 inches, it will grow roots out too, which is just a much better root system for the plant overall, and it gives it a great healthy plant and gives you more fruit. So after I get the plant installed. The next thing I do is I add some bamboo stakes. I usually put about 3, and I put them in a triangle pattern around the stem of the tomato, nice and tight up to it as I can, and it traps that stem and that plant in that triangle pattern of those bamboo stakes. That way it protects it from wind and heavy rains that are coming, you know, that inevitably are going to hit, and it keeps it sturdy and gives it some support and keeps it from damaging itself until it can get, you know, some maturity on it and get growing on up through the racks. So that's how I get the plant started. Once I have that all done, then I add the water. I turn on my irrigation. I've got a new irrigation system for this tomato garden that sprays in a downward position. So it'll squirt 2 gallons a minute down there on those plants, and after the plant gets on up mature, it's only shooting the water down at the roots instead of all over the whole leaves on the whole plant. That's what I'm really looking for. So that's really the process of how I plant my tomatoes. You can add other things in there if you want. Eggshells is a good thing, but the main thing is you want to lime those plants, because tomatoes are inherently magnesium and calcium deficient, and which causes blossom end rot. So if you add that lime, that pulverized dolomitic limestone, when you first plant these things and give it a good dose, that really greatly reduces that blossom end rot. And for me, in years past, it actually completely eliminated it. So go ahead and put that lime in there when you plant it. That's going to be preventative maintenance for later. So always remember that. So I guess that's about it on getting these guys in the ground. They're ready to grow. Add the water to them and let them get watered in real well. And we'll be back to watch the development of these plants in the days ahead. See you soon. Well, our husky tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, are really rocking and rolling. They're up to the first rung on my tomato cage. And that's how I usually gauge my progress on my tomatoes, is my first rung, second rung, third rung. First rung is a pretty good stage because I start to see a lot of blooms coming out on the plant, and the stems and the stalks of the plant has really gained strength, and they're looking great. And when I get up to this one right here, you'll start seeing little green tomatoes. When I get up to the top one, this thing will cascade out and be loaded with tomatoes at that point. And usually by the time I'm to the third rung, I can start harvesting. So we're looking forward to that, because these are indeterminate, and they will produce a little cherry tomato all summer, all the way up until they get a freeze on them. So we're happy about that. So we'll be back in the days ahead. We'll look for it when it gets up to the second rung and check it out then. See you soon. Well, good morning, friends. Welcome back. Been about 3 weeks since I touched base with you, but our husky cherry tomatoes, they're doing really pretty good. As you can see, they've climbed over the second rung of the tomato rack, which is to me another stage of my development of my tomatoes. I kind of watch them by the first, second, and third rack. Right here, we're getting where we start to put on a lot of greenies. And if you look right down in here, you can see they're already starting to put on the little clusters of greens. Those will be turning red here very shortly. Actually, they've had several of them already ripened, but Nancy keeps them picked pretty clean. So I said, hey, sweetheart, leave some on there so we can show the folks on the video. So she promised me she would let a few ripen so we can finish the video with you. But anyway, they are some pretty sweet cherry tomatoes, and we both really like them. So anyway, we'll be back in about, I'd say, a couple more weeks. We'll let these continue to grow. These are indeterminate, of course, so they'll grow all summer. They'll actually clear the top of the tomato rack, and they will continue to produce the tomatoes throughout the summer all the way up until we get a frost. So this is a good cherry tomato if you want to enjoy it all summer long. So we'll be back in a couple weeks, and we'll pick a couple of red ones, and we'll test them out together. See you then. Well, good morning, friends. Our husky cherry red tomatoes are finally starting to put on some nice tomatoes. Nancy keeps them picked pretty clean. But anyway, they're a pretty sweet little cherry tomato, and this might be one you want to try in your spring garden this year. You can see they're a good size tomato. I mean, for a cherry tomato, I mean, if you take a look at that, hopefully that camera has focused that. Did it get it, sweetheart?
Yes, it did.
Okay, see how big that cherry tomato is? That's a little larger than what we normally grow for cherry tomatoes, but it's a mouthful. But anyway, it's a good sweet tomato, and they are indeterminate, so they will grow all the way the rest of the summer, all the way until they get a frost on them, and they will continue to produce these beautiful little cherry tomatoes. So until me and Nancy see you next time, we hope that our video brought a smile to your face and some joy to your heart, and we want to thank the Lord for these beautiful husky cherry tomatoes. So until we see you next time, always remember, by His hands we are fed. Give us, Lord, our daily bread. Amen.
Have a blessed day.